good governance, and in particular public financial management, are essential to ensuring that the strong macroeconomic performance of the African continent actually translates into results for the people, and in particular into poverty reduction and into shared prosperity. Governments spend a lot of money in Africa, but the effectiveness and the efficiency of that spending and its impact on service delivery is not as good as we would like. And the reason for that is that there are remaining weaknesses in all aspects of the PFM cycle, but particularly on the downstream sides of the cycle. And so it's really essential that we step up our efforts to improve PFM across the continent. So the Ebola crisis was a huge challenge to not only the three most affected countries, Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, but also to Senegal and Nigeria, which were also affected to a lesser degree, and to the continent as a whole, because it had a direct and devastating impact on mortality and the lives of the affected communities, but it also had a huge impact on economic growth through investor confidence. So the World Bank Group has mobilized very strongly to support the response of the three countries in the international community. In particular, we have helped to ensure that health workers who were on the front line of the fight against the disease were paid, and were paid hazard pay, to account for the extra risk that they were taking, because at the outset of the crisis, a lot of the victims were from the health sector, as a result of which the health centers were deserted, and health workers, were not available to cater to the victims and to the patients. So we had to ensure that this hazard pay was provided. We also had to ensure that it was provided in a way that was transparent and ensured for the accountable use of the funds. That was a big challenge. Initially, the governments were paying workers with bags of cash. So we helped them to set up systems, of lists of people who were entitled to the pay, to ensure so that there were appropriate scales that were commensurate with the risk that people were taking, and that there was appropriate oversight from the local internal audit bodies as well as the external auditor and the fiduciary agent whom we hired for this purpose. So that was a big part of the challenge. Another part was ensuring, of course, that the services that we were contracting UN agencies to provide on the ground were actually being delivered on time and to the right level of quality. And that is another area where we also were involved. Overall, I think the crisis will have led to an increase in transparency and accountability in the management and use of public resources. So as we rebuild these countries and these communities, we can hope to rebuild them better. I think that the new frontier for governance in Africa, and not just in Africa, across the world, is to connect the supply side of the governance equation, in particular strengthening the PFM cycle, strengthening oversight, to the demand side of the equation, and particularly citizen engagement. It's about making sure that when the Accountant General produces its financial statements and the Auditor General issues an audit opinion on them or does a value for money audit, that goes out to the public through the media, that then the media and the public exercise pressure on Parliament and on the executive to actually address the weaknesses that are identified. It's also leveraging new technology to ensure that parents of kids who are in school are able to report when the teachers don't show up for work, or when there are stockouts of essential pharmaceuticals in health centers. That new technology is also leveraged to ensure that information about where money is going, geomapping of spending is used to ensure that communities know what they're entitled to, and also that they're able to report when things go wrong. I think there are many exciting possibilities in this area, and the World Bank Group is looking forward to partnering with governments and regional organizations to try to leverage them.